One time back in middle school, I had finished my stuff early and was playing Yu-Gi-Oh with a friend. We got most of the way through the game when a teacher walked up and asked about it. She specifically asked how to win, and my friend explained that there were 3 methods. Lower the life points to 0, deck out, or buy Exodia. My memory fails after that. I may have said something, but I'm not sure. But the point is, my friend was wrong. To a degree. In Yu-Gi-Oh, there are more than 3 ways to win. If we want to get specific, the number is closer to 22. Which leads me to the topic today. Sometimes you don't need to reduce an opponent's life to win. Sometimes you don't need to deck them out, you just have a card that says win the game. Now none of these companies will print a card that just reads win the game. Yet. But these cards introduce a different way to play the game. Another destination you are playing towards. And these alternative win conditions come in all sorts of shapes and sizes. Some of them are good, and most of them are bad. Really bad. So let's talk about some of them, most of them, maybe even all of them, and maybe by the end of this video I'll come up with a point to make. Hearthstone! There are about 4 to 5 alternative win conditions in Hearthstone, which is the lowest out of all of them. And all of the Hearthstone win conditions are late game high mana combo payoffs. You can choose to run these cards in your deck, but if you don't build your deck around them, they probably won't be able to go off. Mechathune needs you to have nothing else anywhere before you can win. The Purified Shard requires you to play a lot of cards of specific mana values before it even gets put into your deck. Uther's 4 Horsemen need 4 hero powers to win, something that you can normally only do once a turn. And Rivendare needs all these Horsemen to be destroyed, these that need to first get shuffled into your deck. The last one is Wheel of Death, and it doesn't have any stipulations, but it does immediately put you into fatigue. It still heavily debuffs you while taking up essentially your whole turn. The point is, all of these are late game and all of these need a lot of work to set up. An attribute that isn't dissimilar from other combo cards. Cards that can also win you the game, but don't say destroy the enemy hero on the actual card text. And because I'm moving on quickly, this is good, this was alright, this is disgusting and wild, and the rest are no good most of the time. Quickly moving on, let's get to the game that has a win condition so iconic that it has become an expression in and of itself. I'll let Dan Green explain it for everyone.
I've assembled all 5 special cards, all 5 pieces of the puzzle. Exodia, obliterate!
But Yu-Gi-Oh has more than just Exodia. It actually has quite a number of win conditions. And that's ignoring cards like Victory Dragon, which win the entire match. That's a separate type of card anyway, I don't know why I brought it up. There are about 20 alternative win conditions you can try to use in Yu-Gi-Oh! And surprisingly, Exodia is by far the most viable out of all of them. Because all of them suck. Maybe Countdown is fine. So I'm going to very quickly go over why each of these win conditions aren't very good. Exodia, vastly inconsistent and you need to run 5 bricks just to play it. Destiny board takes 5 turns and your opponent can easily destroy a letter. Final Countdown needs 20 turns, which is plenty of time for you to lose. Vinamanaga is too slow and has no protection. Exodius takes 5 attacks with no interruption and protection. Exodia, this one, needs even more setup and something on your opponent's board. Halactai needs so much setup that you should just win the game anyway. Angel of Mischief needs too many turns to fill back up. Number 88 has no protection and inhibits battle interaction. And C88 speeds the game up by 2k and barely functions as a win con. Numeronius lets your opponent stop you. Spiral Assault needs opposing monsters to destroy and gives no protection. Winners needs the same thing and is even easier to clear. Flying Elephant depends entirely on your opponent not reading. Jackpot 7 relies on the same thing. And finally, Summer Schoolwork Successful needs you to almost deck out while fulfilling more conditions. Oh, and Dice Games is appropriately named. You can put these into 3 categories. Too slow, functionally impossible, and actually impossible. And it really doesn't help that most of these cards don't have archetypal support that helps them get there. And the ones that do would rather win the game the traditional way. These cards play in a way that is independent from all the other win conditions. No board presence, no disruption, and no inherent card advantage. And in a game as fast as Yu-Gi-Oh!, taking an alternative path means you are heavily disadvantaged at most steps of the game, which makes these cards really impractical. Exodia is the best out of the bunch, and it isn't even close. And all that deck needs is to draw cards. The win cons don't fit within the core gameplay loop, and because of that, don't end up being very good. Why put in all this work to win the game with this card when you can functionally win the game with much less effort? Moving right along to the Pokemon trading card game, we've swung our way back to a game that has very few alternative win conditions. Because all the cards that would normally be here just give you prize cards instead. The normal way you win in this game. But for now, we're going to ignore Slowbro and Slowbro adjacent cards and talk about the two categories that these win conditions can be put into: Lost World and Unknown. Lost World is a stadium that if you get 6 of your opponent's Pokemon in the Lost Zone, the Pokemon equivalent of banished or exiled, you get to win the game on the spot. This didn't see no success. It was played with Gengar Prime and other cards that can get cards into the zone without relying on battle. But these cards came with ways for your opponent to play around them, and you could even open yourself up to the win condition, which is why this win condition was underwhelming, but still pretty alright. Second category, Unknown. For some reason, they decided to print 3 Unknown cards in Lost Thunder, all of which ask you to perform a very difficult task in order to win the game on the spot. Out of the 3, Unknown Missing also has to do with the Lost Zone. But it's not good. 12 supporters is a lot of cards, and your opponent may not even run that many in their deck to begin with. But it's the other 2 that were not very healthy. First up is Unknown Hand. If you manage to get 35 cards in your hand, more than half your deck, you get to win. Then there is Unknown Damage. If you have 660 damage on your board, you get to win. Now, these cards were also not great in standard play, but in expanded, they were so unhealthy that they were banned. Pokemon is all about attacking your opponent's Pokemon and managing offense along with the prize trade, but these 2 cards turn the playstyle away from that to an uninteractive state. The decks end up being an OTK combo playstyle in a game that doesn't really facilitate that type of deck. Most players don't find it enjoyable when they lose because they got these onto the board because you weren't fast enough. The one with the win condition adjacent to the normal gameplay loop was fine, while the one that wasn't was too unhealthy to remain unbanned. If you want to make a healthy, viable alternative win condition, it shouldn't stray too far away from the already established ones. And now we go from the least number of win conditions, because I excluded so many, to the one with by far the most. The number right now might be 34, but because they keep printing more of these, this number will probably be outdated by the time Spider-Man comes out. So I won't be going through every single one of them this time. Hearthstone has goodish win conditions, Yu-Gi-Oh has the bad ones, and Magic has the funny ones, and some other good ones. Triskaidekaphile is a card that I never thought I would have to pronounce, and wins you the game if you have exactly 13 cards in your hand on your upkeep. Would seem like a better version of the card that was so good it was banned, but completely different games. And this card is not very good. It has to stick, there's less card draw in Magic, lots of things. And something like Battle of Wits, where if you enter 2 binders into a deck sheet, you can win the game. Also not good because it's the definition of inconsistency. And there are a couple of them that are there for flavor. Not every card printed is meant to be good. But that's a whole other topic. With Magic, we can go back to the point made in the other game with Mana. All of these cards require a big cost in order to win the game with. None of them by themselves will win the game on their own. They need help to actually get there. Whether it be tons of mana, tons of creatures, tons of draw, tons of mill, a lot of things need to go right for these cards to function. A 1-card win the game doesn't exist. Due to the way Magic works, with decks running strong generalist cards rather than archetype-specific specialist cards, even playing to these specific conditions still maintains the core gameplay loop that is expected in Magic. Which means, while cards like these can be annoying to play against, they don't warp the game any more than any strong strategy. And as long as the gameplay loop is similar enough, a card like this isn't all that different from a card like this. There we go, found the point. While these cards have the text of win the game on them, putting them in a whole other category of cards, as evidenced by the creation of this video, they really aren't all that special. These games have been around for a very long time, and that means the player base doesn't need the card text to say win the game to know that the card wins them the game. These cards are all viable win conditions, that in everything but text win you the game on the spot. These cards don't win by themselves, but as extensively stated, neither do these. One of the decks that just seems to keep sticking around, because it doesn't suck, is Lotus Field Combo and Pioneer. And it plays like a combo deck. Lots of early game interaction to try and stay alive, along with draw in order to find your combo pieces. And in the case of Lotus Field, getting to your turn where you get your Lotus Field online to get infinite mana. Now, you could win by drawing cards with this dragon, but older versions actually use Second Sun to win the game. Both do the same thing, and if you can lock down your opponent for 20 turns in Yu-Gi-Oh!, maybe with a card like this, then it would have been easier to win the game with Wave Motion Cannon. It's a bit faster. You don't need the card to say win the game for it to win the game for you. Combo decks need cards to actually win for them, and sometimes it'll be a card like this, and sometimes it'll be Second Sun. They do the same thing. In theory, these cards are different from these cards, and in practice they are. These are slightly better, and that's the only difference. The fact that these cards have that text is something that is almost purely for spectacle. And that's perfectly fine. Spectacle is great and certainly has a place in the genre. And of course, cards like this draw people in. I just win, that's crazy, which is certainly exciting. These cards may be mostly underwhelming in play, but it doesn't mean they're useless. And I think their inclusion within the game is a net positive. As explained previously, there are alternative win conditions that are good, playable, sometimes even too good. But the vast majority of them are not, and that's okay. The ones that are good fulfill an incredibly cool niche, getting players to look at a game from a slightly new angle, to analyze slightly new ways to counterplay, slightly new ways of disruption, different ways to not lose. And the rest of them are just cool, which is what cards should be. The cards could be argued as vastly underwhelming, but not every card needs to be meta relevant. Some just need to be cool, which I think a card like this does very, very well.